All right, so brutal honesty part three. Sorry, I keep cutting the videos off, guys. Like the first time, my storage was full, and the second time, my phone died. I'm not exactly sure where I left off, but I have a good general idea. So, going back to my story, when I'm speaking to this woman who I knew, my friend, about these guys who had tried to rob me that I knew who were my friends. And at this time, she revealed that she was the driver for them that night, and that she revealed one of them to me, but would not give me the name of the other one. And then she also revealed that my ex was with me at the house on this night, that she knew about it. And, she was hanging out with them and stuff. And so that, in addition to all of it, it sucked hearing, but like that really hurt me, right? Like I was just like, wow, my ex, like who was there that night, who was scared, who I was trying to protect, who, I trusted and had a relationship with, and she knew like how that whole thing, how I felt about it, how like it affected me. And then at that time she had no clue uh who it was either, but I just found out that uh, I just became aware that she has known now for a while. And that was really hard to deal with. So when I left and I went home, she was who I contacted her because at this time, we had started talking again. This was almost a year after we like broke up, and like we had started talking here and there and stuff. But I texted her and I said, wow, I just found out that like who it was that came to my house this night, blah blah blah. And I like said all the things that I knew I needed to say to like let her know that like I know. So don't deny it. And it's fine. It's whatever. Uh, but tell me who the other one was because she wouldn't tell me. And at first she was like, nah, like she's like Sean, I can't tell you because I'm sorry, like you're right, that's messed up, but like I can't and I was like, why wouldn't you tell me this? And like she's like, because I know how you are. I know how you are, like I know what you do. Like, I can't tell you. And I was like, yo, I'm not gonna do anything, but you need to tell me now. Like, or I'll never forgive you. Like I was like, you better tell me. And she told me. She sent the next text she sent was the name. And I already knew, but I wanted confirmation. And like I didn't reply at that point. At this point we took a break because I was so hurt. Like I wanted to go off on her and I wanted to like curse her out and do all kinds of nonsensical things to express how angry and like betrayed I felt. But at the same time, I I kept in mind that whenever I did that before, it it pushed her away, and and I didn't even want her to know how like that hurt me. Like I didn't want to like vulnerabilize myself. Like I knew it would only lead to more issues, right? So I left it alone, and that's when I contacted a friend of mine, let him know, and then we got to the house, right? We got to I had him contact or find out where uh, the initial guy that I found out was, and they were at a mutual friend of ours, but I didn't talk to that guy much, so like it would be weird. Plus, the person who initially told me what happened had already like let them know, and that I knew, and watch out. And so I got my friend to act like he was gonna go hang out with them alone. well, I'm driving him over there, right? And so we get to the house. I knocked on the door and like stayed away from the peephole. Had him stand in front of it, and as soon as the guy, the friend, opened the door, I barged in, which was wrong. That was wrong. Like I didn't think about it at the time. I was only worried about finding out the truth, but at the same time, the way I went about it was completely unnecessary and it was uncalled for. Like I had no right to do that, but I did it. And I went in there, and like I said, I was wearing MMA gloves because I wanted him to know that I wasn't playing, and I wasn't going to beat him up because like I knew I could. He knew I could. You know, there's nothing to prove. They didn't get away with anything, but at the same time, you know, I found out that they tried to rob me, and they were my friends, right? So I wanted to express anger and stuff. So I went upstairs. I was like, "Yo, where's so and so?" And he was like, "He's upstairs." And I felt bad because this is this guy's house, and he's like talking to me like he's a guest, answering my questions, just like And I was like, dude, this has nothing to do with you. Even though it was still wrong of me to be doing it. I was just like, like I'm not gonna. He was like, yo, don't be like destroying my house, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that. All right, I'm not going to do that. I just want him to tell me, answer a simple question. That's it. And I went upstairs and I was talking to him and I let him know, hey, I know so and so. Both of them told me blah blah blah, and I know that this person was involved. And like I said, this took like around 10 minutes, right? And that's how relaxed I actually am and how comfortable this dude was around, even wearing it. And he was really uncomfortable, but and I kept saying, it was a confusing situation because I kept saying, Scott, I kept saying I'm gonna beat you up unless you tell me what happened. But if you don't, I mean, but if you tell me what happened, that'll be the end of it. That's it. And I really didn't want to beat him up, and I needed him to know that. Uh, well, I needed him to think otherwise, and it was hard, especially the longer I spent not beating him up to get the information I needed. And it got to a point where I was just like, yo, enough of this. I was like, he's like, so if I tell you, he's like, you're telling me that if I tell you that did, I did that, and I admit it, you won't do anything. But if I don't do that, you're gonna hurt me. And I said, yes. And he said, I have your word that you're not gonna hurt me if I tell you. And I said, yes. And he said, okay, I did it. And I said, that's all I wanted to know. See how easy that was? And I said, that's messed up, right? And I said, do you remember? I'm assuming you're the one who slipped, right? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, you remember what I said to you that night? And he's like, yeah. And I said, you see what I mean? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, that's messed up, man. But I said, thank you for telling me. Now I can go. And I left. And at some point, I had felt better at that point, and I know the third party who was involved, it's kind of ironic because like I didn't know that he was involved in this at the time, but I would say around 2 weeks prior to like what I just explained to you, he and I were at a party, at a house party, and we were in the back, and he was like, he gets like, he has a tendency to get like drunk and stuff, and like he was like, he knew I was like into MMA and boxing, Muay Thai, and jiu-jitsu and wrestling and stuff, and he was like, he'd be like, Sean, teach me how to like do that stuff. Like I want to wrestle with you, right? And we'd like go in the backyard and we'd wrestle. And this night I had put him in like I'd put him in a guillotine. I remember I got on. I put him. He like kind of got in a position where he like took me down. I let him take me down, and then I put him in a triangle choke, and he tried to flip out of it, and I ended up on top of him, triangle choking him, which like led to him like gurgling like I've never seen, and like a bunch of people witnessed this, and then that was it, right? So, and this happened 2 weeks prior to what I just explained. So, I was like, even though that was all like fun and it wasn't personal, like I felt like, I don't need to go see him. I was like, let him know I know. And, that was that. And I let it go. And I felt good, after the fact. Like, I didn't need to go beating these people up. And even though it all hurt me, and knowing that people that I trusted knew about it, and like it sucked. Like, it was really hard, but at the same time I made a decision to let it go. Like, and like they didn't get away with anything. But it was the principle of the matter, right? It was the principle of the thing. I can't do that stuff to people. And I'm not saying that I haven't, like, I'm at the same time I'm giving you guys my experiences that I was wrong. Of course I'm like revealing all of these other things that I did wrong to like screw people over. But that's what I'm talking about, hypocrisy. These things go on every day in the world of both, like, well, we all live in the same world, but having that view of like being unbelievers, there's no, what's, what are we, we all like to think we're good. A lot of us like to pretend we're perfect, but what is the standard, guys? What are we learning from? Our parents are hypocrites. We are hypocrites. Our friends are hypocrites. Our dating partners are hypocrites. Our coworkers are hypocrites. Everyone is hypocrites. Okay? So we are all just alike doing this. We're all going about daily. And this is a butterfly effect, guys. We all live in the same world, and things are happening to all of us, and we're all making horrible decisions, screwing people over, getting screwed over, one day after the other. Maybe we help people throughout all that or whatever, but there's no consistency in anything other than destruction. We're doing more harm than good. That's the truth. Like, we are. As unbelievers, and even let's say lukewarm Christians or fake Christians, there's a difference. I mean, to me, a fake Christian is someone who knows the truth but chooses to ignore their responsibilities that come with being a Christian. And a lukewarm Christian is, to me, someone who's kind of too lazy to, or maybe they were misinformed by a fake Christian or another lukewarm Christian who like never took the time to form a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. They just said, they do what they're just like, hey, we can accept Jesus as our Lord and Savior, and we'll go to heaven, but we can still just do everything the same way we're doing it now. Like, and maybe they just don't know better. But that's not how that works, guys. It's not how that works. Like, what would be the point of like judgment, and like what would be the point in following God and changing our behavior and the way of thinking? Like, it's wrong. Like, we wouldn't make it. That's why it's a narrow path. Okay? Like, it makes sense. And some people may be watching this video thinking like, what's a narrow path? Like, there are lukewarm Christians that they're like, they never heard of the Holy Spirit or they don't know the Word of God. They don't know any of this. Like, and I have videos where I'm like reading, I'll do more where I read the scriptures, because of course that's important. And I do drop hints and stuff in like my own way of explaining things, as well as like giving my own, but you got to keep in mind, I just started doing this stuff. Like, I just started making videos. This is probably video 30. And it's important to me before I get heavily involved into doing that, that I introduce myself like as a human and like give you my background, you know, and it's important because like you need to know that I imagine there are people out there that have this like way of thinking that they're just closed minded. They're like, there's Jesus doesn't love me. There's no way he'd love me. Like I have done horrible things. No, that's not true. He would love you and he wants you to stop doing those. That's why I'm telling you about the things that I've done wrong. That's why I need to share them with you. Because if you're someone who has done those same things, or maybe even not as savage as me or whatever, then like, you know, there's no excuse. Like, guys, God doesn't want to send a single soul to hell. All right, doesn't want to, but He's going to if they deserve it. All right. You don't have to believe in it for that to be true, okay? That's what you have to understand, all right? It's imperative that you do not wander around this earth thinking I can just do whatever I want and I'll get away with it. Like, you won't. Like, you won't. You can't do that. And, like, it's important that you are honest all the time, 24/7. So let me just keep it real with you. If you're the type of person that doesn't want to believe in God, right? And for whatever reason, still, after everything I've explained, or any videos that you may have watched through other people in the faith, you know, you just you can't bring yourself to like read the Bible and start praying and like obeying commandments and changing yourself, right? Whatever reason. You, you gotta understand, like, the reason why I'm doing these videos is it's for everyone. People, there are more people on this earth that are like that. You know, you're thinking, oh well, most people don't believe in God, so there can't be a God if most people don't believe in it. No, that's not true. And what's even more fascinating is the fact that God is pretty clear that the workers He has are few. There aren't many. So we got to pray for more to come in. You know, we got to pray every day that we get more, because you know, whether we like it or not, whether He likes it or not, he already knows what's going to happen, and He's already revealed to His followers, to His disciples, what's going to happen long term to the majority of us. You know, He's revealed what happened prior to any of us existing on this planet. He's revealed what's happening now to us, and He's revealed what's going to happen sooner than later. And guys, it's the wrath of God. Like, you know, the Antichrist is coming. They're going to establish a one world religion and a one world currency. And this is going to bring about the arrival of both the mark as well as the Antichrist. It's going to happen. You know, nothing can change that. And make no mistake, even though it's the arrival of the Antichrist and it's going to be the worst form of that, it's going to be the worst thing that the world has ever seen or endured. And you know, God is clear in His word. I forgot exactly which verse it is, but He says, you know, like, ever since the beginning of time up until that point, and there never will be anything like that ever again, because at that point, at the end of it, things will be, you know, we'll have judgment, and you know, we'll be separated either in heaven with God, and those of us who do not follow Him, those vast majority of us who do not follow God, they're gonna suffer forever. All right, and you know, He's clear about that. And you got to think, why would he word that way? Because when I think of, he wants us to think, why was this written? What's the worst thing that has ever happened in human history so far? I would think, the Holocaust. As horrible as that was, Hitler. World War II, and then there was, the prior to that, the rise of Napoleon. Both Hitler and Napoleon are responsible for the most deaths to ever take place. Like, the most. And they both tried to take over the world, and you got to keep in mind, the Lord gave Nostradamus visions of 3 antichrists prior to both his death and their arrival, which came after that. Okay, and he provided enough detail on all 3, but especially the first 2, that like where they would come from, where would be their rise, like who, what was their heritage, and he said that each one would be worse than the last, right? Napoleon wanted to take over the world, and then Hitler did, and he came the closest. And we had the Holocaust, which to this day we all agree. I don't care who you are. I've had so many conversations with people. It seems that we can all agree that the Holocaust is the worst thing that has anyone's ever endured, right? I couldn't imagine that. That's horrible. And at the same time, the third and final Antichrist is described, world tribulation, worldwide tribulation, worldwide. Everyone is going to experience something that it's described as unlike anything the world has ever seen. So if I know that the world has seen something as brutal as the Holocaust and as horrible as that was, worldwide tribulation's going to be much worse. It's going to be unlike anything. So it's going to be, as horrible as that was, it's going to be unlike that. When that happens, it's going to be so much worse, maybe 100 times worse than that. As hard to fathom as that is, the Lord does not lie, and it's the wrath of God being poured out onto humanity for its collective disobedience. It's serious, guys. We can't run around. I can imagine that it's like, it's enticing to not believe in God and not believe that you're going to, or just not even think about what could happen after we die or even prior to it. And just like, it's enticing to believe and be surrounded by the majority of people who think the same way. Oh, we can all like pretend to be good and pretend to be perfect while we're steadily, between miserable, getting screwed over, and doing that to other people. And we're just lying, but we think, oh, we'll get away with it, so it's okay. No, you're wrong. Even if that were the case, which it isn't, that still wouldn't be okay. And number 2, that's a fairy tale. That's a fantasy. A wicked one. You're imagining a vain thing when you do that. We need the Lord, guys. We all do. And he isn't discriminative on who he gets to know and corrects. You gotta want it. I can't force you to. But I can only tell you why it's important. There's nothing more important. People wonder why. If we have lukewarm Christians, it's funny. Like, people they'll be like, if they see me on like social, if I'm posting like I post more of the word of God like on social than I've like done on YouTube, because if I'm gonna be making videos, I first want to like establish myself in who I am and like my experiences. But like I can imagine people are thinking like, oh man, he posts about God way too much. Like it's just too much. No, it isn't too much. I don't feel that it's too much, because like it's important and not many people are doing it enough. You know, it needs to be done. It's God's will. I'm proud of doing it, so I don't care how anyone else like feels about it. It needs to be done, and not many people are going to be willing to do it, and a whole lot of people aren't going to respect it. But that's why God needs someone like me to do it. Does that make sense? Like I need to do it because I don't care what anyone else thinks about me. I don't care if they think it's too much. I don't care if it isn't popular. It's the truth. People need to hear it. They can accept it or they can deny it. But if they see it and they read it, you know, it has to be done. It's God's will. It has to be done. And you got to keep in mind, guys, like the reason why I explain uh, these experiences I've had, as awful as they sound, right? How can someone like me or like that change without focusing on God 24/7? I can't just like, you know, pick and choose when I want God around. He makes it clear I need to follow him. And if I follow him and I depend on him, then that means every life's about him. Period. And that's not a bad thing. Don't let anyone tell you that. And do not use the hypocrites as an excuse, because ironically, they don't follow him. All right? They don't. They don't. But if they all of a sudden changed their minds and decided to, instead of pretending to, you would love that, of course. But we got to focus on God 24/7. And speaking of the topic, brutal honesty and like uh, correct praise. It's funny. I have a brother. I believe his channel's Liam's Testimony, and he's a cool guy. I watched one video he had, and he's Australian. That's really cool. Like that's awesome. Like I love his accent. But like Liam, if you're watching now, dude, if I ever find myself in Australia, you should let me one of your Bowie knives and we should go shark hunting together. Like I love the way you sound, dude. Just saying. That's cool. I need to watch more of your videos, but I love that you preach the word. In addition to like, I need to watch more of them, but I like that one that I watched, and I do love the scriptures you're sharing, and I love your like. It was funny even when I was making those fighting videos. I love that you commented, "Let's focus on Yah," right? Because like, that's refreshing to hear, because I'd rather hear that than hear you talk too much about God. So it's good when to hear a brother, and me knowing how imperative it is to focus on God and spread His word. Like it, I appreciate it when a brother is telling me like, "Hey, like focus on Yah." Like the correct praise. He was like, "Hey, focus on Yah," and like I'm not. You were saying that you're not like, you're just trying to be a fellow brother, and like somebody gave you the same advice before, right? Like I love that. Exactly. You know, like it's important that we come across like that we do that. Like we need to be relatable when we correct. We need to, and and you're like, I love those videos. Like keep making those videos. That's like I love hearing that, because like, even though I don't want people to get the wrong idea about them. And these videos, they are hard to make, or they would be harder to make without knowing that like I'm doing it for the Lord, right? And I'm doing it for his people, and I'm doing it for the lost. Okay? And I'm doing it for me. I'm letting go of things that I've either kept hidden or that just weren't obvious, or that people need to hear and need to understand. Like, you know, I that's why I make them. So it's good when I see a brother in the faith say he loves those videos. And, you want me to keep making them and focus on that, because of course that's the whole reason I have a channel. I wouldn't have a channel. I wouldn't be on Facebook if I wasn't doing it for God. And like I understand like the worry, like seeing me start posting videos on like fighting, you might assume, oh wait, he's gonna drift over and make this about something other than it needs to be. Uh, I can understand that concern. You brought that to my attention, and all I had to do was understand where you were coming from, and then explain to you, nah, like it's not like that, bro. Don't worry. Like it's literally it's to build confidence, because the fact is, being a fighter, me trying to humble myself and stuff, and like I've had so many experiences in my life that like people, for whatever reason, want to like put me down, and understanding that we live in a God-hating world, and his followers, you know like we know that it isn't popular. So if I'm teaching, or like making videos that like teaches a Christian how to defend themselves, it's not to so y'all go out like start beating people up. Don't do that, obviously. But it gives you the ability to go out and not worried about anyone doing that to you. Because like let's keep it real here, guys. uh People who want to uh like trash talk God or his people, they're weak. Okay, they don't know how to fight. All right, I don't care if they're unbelievers, or like what, like unbeliever. I was an unbeliever learning how to fight, and I did never feel the need to like you know to discredit you guys or God for any reason, right? And I can't think of any times that I was around people who did that. We were making fun of the hypocrites, which you know doesn't include either God or his real people. But my point is that people who conform to like spread hate, and that don't want to believe in God, and want to like convince people that God can't be real based on like you know the hypocrites, people like that are weak. All right, that's the truth. So they can't hurt you, and they especially can't hurt you if you know how to defend yourself, right? And if you know how to defend yourself, you don't need to prove to them when the time comes that like you can hurt them. But if they do approach you, you know, you won't be worried, and you would have no problem saying, "Hey, you don't want to do that." Like it's good. Like I want you to, and plus, if God will never let them hurt you, even if you didn't know how to fight. But I want people to be confident. Martial arts builds confidence, and it's healthy. And like, even if you're an unbeliever watching this video right now, like, and say you have like a alcohol addiction, or like a drug addiction, or you're in sexual sin, or you're struggling with that feeling of like loneliness. We're never alone. All right, you need to read that Bible. We're never alone, ever. That's a lie that Satan wants you to believe. He wants you to think that you need those drugs and that alcohol, and to be around people, and to be accepted by the world, and the way he's he's molding it. Like, he wants us, he wants you living in sin, he wants you miserable, he wants you trusting people who don't believe in God rather than trusting God alone. You know, he wants you to do the opposite of everything that you're both doing and should do. You know, he wants you to feel like you're alone in a world that we never are. All right? You aren't. You're not alone. God is with you. He's around all of us. And you got to think too, guys, like, you know, Judgment Day. Think about like brutal honesty, you know, and why it's important, and like correcting each other, and like, you know, making it I can't go around, you know, I'm not soft, okay? Neither is Jesus. I don't care how anyone wants to make him appear. Jesus suffered the worst thing anyone could ever endure, and he did that for us. Like, that's beautiful. And it's funny how he did that, but at the same time he could still be the way that he is, you know, on the inside, but yet he endured that torture and stuff. Like, that's insane. Like, I wouldn't, there's no one I'd rather strive to be like. You know, Jesus isn't soft. He isn't, you know, just because he's good and perfect and humble doesn't make him soft. And, you know, you got to keep in mind, eternity's forever, right? And he knows most people are going to hell, even though he doesn't want them to. So he lets his followers know that, like, you know, most people are going to hell. You need to let people know what the reality of hell, why people are going to hell, and that they don't want to go there, and about the devil. You know, I noticed it's not like people follow, man, Joel Osteen and like these mega church heads. Like, guys, you got to stop following these people because they're they're popular. Like, the reason why they're so popular is because they're rich. Okay, they're rich, and even in Mark chapter 10, Jesus himself in red describes that it would be easier for a camel to travel through the eye of a needle than it would be for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. He said that would be easier, but that's impossible. Jesus speaks in parables, guys, and that's another way of saying that it's impossible times infinity. All right, Joel Osteen's not going to heaven because he's a rich man. Do you understand that? You know, there's no reason. I posted, I made a video about that. It's like 7 minutes. And just saying in general, like saying that it wouldn't benefit us to be rich. You know, we can't serve two masters. We'd either serve one and hate the other and despise the other, or you guys know what I'm getting at. But, you know, you cannot serve both God and mammon. And mammon is money, all right? And what do most people talk about that year round? I hear people talking about money, arguing about money, complaining about money, wishing they had more money, and at the same time, none of those people are saving it. They're just wasting it and spending it on like things that are just meaningless, that they think will make them happy. And I would have never guessed, but apparently some of these things do. Some people are like literally materialists. You know, materialists aren't spiritual. So materialists find value in things that, you know, like cars and houses, and you know, materialist is someone like kind of like my father. I hate to say this, but like, you know, when I was a kid, and like my mom's told me stories, and I remember things, and I've witnessed things around my nephew, and it angers me. But like, You know, if a child is messing with something that like you allowed them to play with, like I don't know, DVD player or something simple like that, you know, and he drops it and breaks it, you know, that it costs like those cost. I mean, do people even watch DVD players anymore? Either way, like you know, it costs $20. You can go out and buy a new one. At the end of the day, that child that accidentally dropped it and didn't know better is more important than that DVD player. But the adult that owns it, like my father, will yell and scream at me or whoever, and like be like, "That costs money. Like you can't do that. Like you know, like we aren't more important. You know, you can't do that stuff, guys. Like you know, people who treat like guys who like want to like who love their cars more than they do the women they're dating, or you know, the money that people make. You know, I have no problem when someone approaches me and asks me what I do for a living. That's a great question. I love questions like that. But when somebody immediately comes up to me and they're like, "How much do you make?" Like, "How much do you make?" Like, that's the first question. I already know at that point this person will bring no value to my life. Like, this person is a materialist and they're more than likely selfish, greedy, and narcissistic. If that's like their first concern, is like people who, you know, they want to like decide whether or not they want to be around you depending on the amount of income like that you have or make. Like who gives a shit about that? And you know it's funny because even when I did independent contracting when I was 19, I made more money than I ever did doing anything else. I got paid and it was only like it was 39.13 for like 2 weeks, for 2 weeks of work. And I worked 8 times a year and we'd get like a month break in return. Hey baby. But you know, I made a lot of money and I didn't look down on anyone. And it's funny because I was, and you know what's really sad? I hate to say this, but it's kind of the truth. But the group of friends I hung out with, you know, I was really, I was either the only one for a long period of time or one of the few who had both a job, a license, and yeah, and I would go out and buy all the cigarettes, all the drugs, and the alcohol, and everything was on me all the time. And like I shared my wealth, like you know, like I said, money never meant anything to me. It was just something. I don't know. It's funny because I've been like back and forth between, you know, I've spent my money on things that I didn't want or need. Like I bought at one point I bought like video games, right? And like, you know, I was trying to get into them and like, you know, people are a lot of people love video games. So I'm not saying like there's anything wrong with that, but I don't like video games, all right? I mean, they're okay and it's healthier than doing drugs and drinking, okay? But you know, I never really cared about them. But there was a point in time that I did spend a lot of money on them and I had like my friends coming over and like, you know, while we were like drinking and doing drugs, we were playing video games or whatever and like, you know, uh it was meaningless and I only played them when like they were there. Like I barely played at all. I tried to play on my own, but I was like, it's boring. Like I don't want to, this isn't something I like to do, right? And like I ended up selling them all after I just paid a huge amount of money for them. I would either end up selling them like for like, you know, way less, or I give them away to like a friend of mine's like brother or like son. Like that, I'd rather do that than get a few dollars back, or even like the full amount. Like I would rather do that. Like I love that. Like I've done that a couple times, and the kids were so appreciative of it. Like kids love that stuff, and I'd rather kids be doing that than doing some of the who knows what. But You know, that those are things, and I feel like it's funny. And when I think about it, even though that was like just prior to coming into the faith that I like did those things, I felt good about it, and there's a reason for that. Like, it wasn't a waste of money to buy those video games. Even though I didn't enjoy it at all, really, or as much as most people do. It wasn't for me. There was purpose in me purchasing those things because I ended up giving them to the people like that needed it, that really did. And I know that, like, I don't have to really explain that in like a whole lot of detail. I could, but I make these videos really long, so. But I'm just making a point, like, it wasn't a waste of money. Like, it wasn't. And even when I bought them and like I sold them for less than I could have got, it wasn't a waste because I needed to do that to learn to stop doing that. You know what I'm saying? That's how we learn from our mistakes, is by making them. But at the end of the day, had I not done that a couple of times, I would never have been able to give those things away to those kids, to the children that like need. Uh, yeah, and like I really love that. Like I love that. Those are some of the coolest moments like in my life that I think of. And it's funny because I could like talk about so many other things and like that are like really cool, right? But like to me, that it's just like those things, there's nothing to it. Like there's no comparison. Like that's cool, you know. And those kids like they were my friends or coworkers, like son or younger brother, but like we were close. Like we bonded, like even prior to that, and like that was just something nice that like I did for them that uh, my friend may not have been in a position to do it at that time because of everything else. And I was happy to do it anyway, regardless. Like I didn't need anything back. Like I'm like, yo, I'm this is either sitting around at my house or it's like or I'm gonna go sell it for less than I paid for it and then use that money to do something stupid like this you know I'm like I don't want you to feel like, oh wow, it's like too much. It's not a big deal. You think it, some people might think it's too much, but it's not. Like it isn't. But yeah, I've had this cigarette for like 3 days. I like put it in my ear and I'll just hold on to it. Just gotta remind me not to light it up, right? I smoked for a long time. Like when I start, 15 or 16. Smoked for a long time. Spent a lot of money on these things, and they made me tired more than anything else, and cough, and smell terrible. And it's funny. I've been wearing this cologne for like the past like 5 or 6 years. I'm not gonna say the name of it, but it smells so good, and women love it. Even like it's rare when a male comes up to me and is like, what are you wearing?" But like I've had a bunch like ask me, and I'll tell some of them, not all of them, but it's funny. And like I just noticed like since like not smoking as much to like to not smoking at all, the benefits are just so, they only increase, right? Like I don't have to, like, people are always telling me I smell good, and I don't have to worry. It's funny too because like I'm not trying to get with like girls right now, and in not trying to, whenever I'm out and about and like just like just doing whatever, and like I get if I get their attention, and like some of them are like, hey, and they're like flirty, and I'm really flirty, and I try not to be like that because like I don't want to like I don't want to give the wrong impression and stuff like that, but like and it makes them like makes them drives them crazy, like drives them crazy, but everything's to the benefit. But like for the like I just know like it's not I'm and I'm not saying I would never date an unbeliever. It's not because I don't think that they're like human, and like it's not because I don't want to, but it's because I just know better than to. It's because I've done that my entire life. I was an unbeliever. They were unbelievers, and like you know when I was an unbeliever, I don't believe I should have been trusted. So how can I trust anyone else, especially after absorbing the word of God? You know, there's that many people on earth that like don't know all this. Like, how can I trust them? If they're like me, like everything that I've been explaining to you guys, like, how can you trust someone like that? Do you trust me? I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. This is the way I behaved prior to the faith, okay? And I'm giving you both, I'm talking about some good things that I did. Like that's cool, but like if you met me, if you didn't know me and I did something like that, like, or you witnessed me do something like that, you would probably assume I was this great, genuine guy. If you witnessed me give away like all that stuff to like a kid, right? You would assume that. And then maybe even after talking to me and speaking to me. But what I need you to understand is no, like the good deeds do not, my good deeds, I don't feel like outweigh the wickedness that like I've like done, and especially to my family. But that includes my relationships, friendships, myself. You know, strangers, coworkers. I mean, no one's excluded. We're all accountable. Okay, that's the truth. We need to stop pretending to be good and perfect, especially on social media, because if we do that, that distracts us from what's really going. Like if we look at everyone's Facebooks and Instagrams and everyone looks like happy, and the majority of us are so vain. Like you see dudes and girls, they're just posting like these like lustful photos and shit. Like they're not, and even if they're in relationships, guys, and like of course, believe me, I believe that people should be able to do whatever they want. Like I mean, of course, I believe that. And if God does, that's why you have the ability to. But at the same time, you need to know, like, I feel like there's few people out there that are doing things that they want to do solely because they have no idea that, like, hell and heaven are real. If they knew that, then they wouldn't do the things they do, right? They would change their behavior. While a lot of us would just kind of do anything we can to like pretend that that's not true, but it is true. you know it is. It'll never change. I hate thinking about people that I know suffer. I hate thinking about people I don't know suffering in hell. I would hate to suffer in hell, and I hope I'm not going. And I prove that by doing what's best for me. I don't want to be my own worst enemy my entire life, because that leads to everything I've explained to you. You know, I I want to be my own best friend. You know, I want to look out for me, and I need Jesus to teach me how to do that because nobody else taught me or showed me, either through what they said or led by example prior. Explain that to me. You know, if you are good and perfect without Jesus, even though I know you're not, but let's say that you're like delusional and you believe that you are. I want you to explain that to me, and I want to meet you, and I want to like follow you around, and I want to see how you like treat and treat other people and how you behave. And I would say I want to see how you do that when you're alone. I could say just like the two of us, but like you could. That doesn't. You know, what are you doing when you think nobody's around? Huh? What are you doing then? What do you say about this gossiping, gossiping, gossiping? It's weak, yo. It's cowardice. All right. If you're at work or if you're in a relationship or you're friends with somebody or you witness a stranger doing something that you disapprove of, don't go around telling everybody else about that and neglecting to speak to the person you're working with, dating, friends with, or that you witnessed doing whatever it is that you have an issue with. Go say something to them because that's what Jesus would do. Jesus wouldn't run around telling everybody else, like, but whoever, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just he wouldn't do that. And he doesn't want us to do that, okay? He wants us to be real, to be righteous and real, you know? Yeah, it's serious. Souls are going to hell forever. That's serious. There's nothing bigger than that. Time is short. It has been since the beginning. Compared to eternity. You know, I was just thinking about like Judgment Day, and I was wondering how that was going to go because like the Lord even says like there's going to come a day where every knee, every head shall bow, right? You know, he knows that. You know, his followers know that, right? No matter what any so like, I'm trying to do an atheist and a Satanist and an unbeliever. Anyone who goes around, makes videos and gains like a huge following to like talk trash about Jesus, isn't it ironic that those people are all going to bow one day to him? You know, he don't need them to right now because when it counts, it's going to happen. Everyone will. That includes you if you're somebody who's like, nah, I don't do that. I won't do that. You're going to. You're going to. I promise. You can't escape it. We're all going to. You can either do it willfully or you're going to do it willfully. Either way. But you can do it before it's too late or after. Oh, but what I was saying out in this video after this, but the point I'm making is, time's an illusion, right? It's short compared to, the end game, you know, uh, overcoming Satan, right? And like if we're all gonna every human being is going to be judged and it's going to become known to all everything that was done in secret, but like in the dark, it shall come to light and be known to all, right? So that's another way of saying that, like, whatever you're doing behind closed doors that you think people have will never find out about, there's going to come a day that everyone is going to know that about you, and everyone's going to know everything about everyone. Isn't that fascinating to think about? And you're probably thinking like, how, that's impossible. Like, no, 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 human, it's not. God is unfathomable, all right? So what, that's the thing about eternity. Like, imagine how great it's going to be. We couldn't even begin to. We're just used to this like jaded world that we're living in, that the majority of us seem so like enthralled with. I don't know how, but temporary pleasures or whatever. But there's gonna be a day, like, our spirits are going to ascend, and like, you know even though this life is pretty much just a test to before, final judgment, to go either way, it's like this is nothing compared to what we're going to, what's life, what's real life, you know real life with God, with our Father. This is none of this. Like, how's that gonna be? It's unfathomable. There's gonna be no pain, for those who go to heaven. Not saying I'm one of them, but like, because I don't ever want to make, like I said, I don't want anyone. I'm doing my best, but like I said, trust God, not me. But and like think about so many people in hell. Man, that sucks. And it's the complete opposite, but they're both forever. So think about how important Judgment Day is going to be. Like, say after like the worldwide tribulation is done, and that's a part of the judgment. That's God pouring out His wrath for collective disobedience. Like, people, all those people who are like, "Where's God? Why isn't He stopping me from doing this?" Then, like, uh, He's coming. He's being patient, but He needs both all of His people to come together and be established, and He needs them to preach His word to all first, and then it'll come. Just be patient. Don't be impatient. All right. God is waiting to pour out His wrath. And are you surprised? Look at the way the world is. Come on, man. Everything isn't like it appears on social media. Things are horrible. People die every single day. People commit suicide. You know, this world is we have human trafficking, rape, child molestation, racism, politics. Like, people are fake and happy. I see people, when I was walking in Amazon every day, I wasn't happy, but it appeared that I was the most happy person on earth. Like, you would think so. I was so energetic and positive, and I was just trying to be uplifting, but I was suffering in turn. Like, you know, I really was. There were things I wasn't dealing with, and I was just trying to distract myself by just being optimistic and like and working, and being there for my coworkers, like, and you know, people would argue that I was like the hardest worker at Amazon, as well as the most like energetic, and you know that I was like, for the most part, not towards the end, but like, I was positive. But and that being possible, that people would argue that, and I'm letting you know right now that I wasn't happy. I was unhappy, and that everybody else around me seemed miserable and unhappy. That worries me. That worries me so much. But it only increases my faith. But as I was saying, Judgment Day, how long do you think that's going to be? That's going to be like the beginning of like forever. Like if you think about it, like Judgment Day, if God says like all things like both done in the dark and that were kept hidden will be revealed and known to all, you know, that means that he's either going to immediately instill this knowledge into all of us about each other, or he's going to take his time. And, because it is a big deal that people are going to be sent to hell, and people need to understand why they're being sent to hell and why others are being sent to hell, especially due to the fact that it's mostly because we lie to each other constantly and we put on this fake ass image that isn't reality. So to rectify that, God may just he may, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he had like one person, like he'd have me walk up and he'd from beginning to end show my entire life, both like public, just every detail. Like say we're all watching how I lived my life, we're all watching it from beginning to end, and then at the end God's like, okay, so you know what what wherever you deserve to go, it'll be obvious to both myself, to God, and to everyone around me, like why it is, and it'd be undisputable. It'd be undisputable. And then imagine someone else you go after me, and then whoever, someone your girlfriend, your ex, and everyone else, and we find out that everyone, because most people are going to hell, we find out that everyone's fake as hell. And the reason we were all miserable is because we were all projecting everything that was wrong with us on everybody. How ironic would that be? And Judgment Day would be really long. And, it deserves to be, because, it's important, because, God can't have any excuses for why he's sending you to hell. He doesn't want to do that, and he's going to hate doing it, and you're going to hate it there, or whoever. Not saying like everybody's watching this video, but I'll say we, like, we would hate that. you know, we need to understand while we're down there, it's our fault. Okay? So I imagine Judgment Day it can go either way. God could either just make everything known to us in some way that he could do it, or he would do it that way. I think that would be interesting to sit and watch how everyone lived their life. If we got forever, we got all day, you know. we got all day. It don't end. We got all the time in the world to understand how everyone who's going to hell lived, and how everyone who's going to heaven lived, and what they did, what differentiates us, both in our the words we speak, our actions, and our thoughts. Like, I think that's fair. And if God chooses to do that in a way that is just like that, or take his time, I wouldn't argue like with either way. But anything's possible. Just know that I'm being brutally honest with you when I tell you that you need Jesus. All right, we all do. But that's it. I'm gonna end this video now. How long? Hour and 9 minutes. Not too bad. But have a good evening, guys. Later.